Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about myelin sheath, then generation and transmission of impulses. Then we have to discuss about synapse and nerves also we have to discuss. Then classification of nerves, how this nerve system is classified, that also we have to discuss here. In the last class we have discussed about what are the parts of neuron, then what are the functions performed by each part, and what is receptor we discussed, then what are the different kinds of experiences that you got from environment, that also we already discussed. Now here we are going to discuss about myelin sheath, then generation and transmission of impulse, then synapse and nerves, how nerves are classified, etc. that we are going to discuss here. Now let us discuss about myelin sheath. Myelin sheath we have to discuss first, then we will go to other topic. What is myelin sheath? Usually axon is surrounded by, or axon is encircled by, that is continuously surrounded by or encircled by a membrane, a lipid membrane, that is called what? It is called myelin. Usually axon region of neuron or nerve cell is usually repeatedly encircled by or completely packed by a lipid material, that is called myelin. We call it as myelin sheath. We call it as a myelin sheath because it is continuously wrapped around the neuron or axon region of a neuron. Here we have to discuss how this myelin is formed and where this myelin is usually found, how we can classify this different region of brain, that we are going to discuss. Next, what are the functions performed by myelin sheath, that is also we have to discuss. Okay. Myelin is nothing but it is the covering of neuron or nerve cell. It is the covering of neuron or nerve cell. It is also called a sheath. Okay, it is also called sheath because it acts like a sheath. Okay, it completely surrounds the axon region of a neuron. This myelin sheath is formed from a special type of cell that is called a Schwann cell. What is it? It is called what? Schwann cell. Myelin sheath is formed from a special type of cell that is called a Schwann cell. And in the case of brain and spinal cord, myelin sheath is formed from a special type of cell that is called oligodendrocyte. Okay, in the case of brain and spinal cord, myelin sheath is formed from a special type of cell that is called oligodendrocyte, that is usually present in brain and spinal cord. Okay, what is myelin sheath? It is the covering of a neuron. It is a sheath-like structure. It is continuously wrapped around the axon region of a neuron. In the case of brain, the myelin sheath is formed from a special type of cell that is called oligodendrocyte. What is it? It is called oligodendrocyte. We can classify region of brain into white matter, region of brain into white matter and grey matter, based on the presence or absence of myelinated nerve cells or non-myelinated nerve cell. What is it? Myelinated nerve cell or non-myelinated nerve cell. Okay. So based on the presence or absence of myelinated nerve cells and non-myelinated nerve cell, brain and spinal caudal region is classified into two types. First one is called white matter and second one is called what? Grey matter. This myelin sheath is usually white in color. It is usually white in color. Okay, it is usually white in color, so it will reflect. Okay, that region is visible as white in color. More, that means more myelinated means what? That region will be more white in color, and non-myelinated region will be less white in color. That also you have to remember. Then the region of brain and spinal cord we classified into white matter and grey matter, that is based on the presence or absence of myelinated nerve cells and non-myelinated nerve cell. So what is myelinated nerve cell? Myelinated nerve cell means it contains myelin sheath. Okay, more the nerve cell with more amount of myelin sheath is called myelinated nerve cell, and non-myelinated nerve cells means what? A myelin sheath is usually less or reduced in number. So we can classify brain region into white matter and grey matter. So what will be white matter? White matter is the region of brain and spinal cord where myelinated nerve cells are rich in number. Myelinated nerve cells are rich in number. That region is usually visible as more white in color. So that region is called what? White matter. It is the region of brain and spinal cord where myelinated nerve cells are present in large amount. And we can classify the second region. We will get a second region that is called grey matter. Here usually non-myelinated nerve cells are present. So that region is usually dark in color or grey matter. It is called grey matter because myelinated nerve cells are usually absent in this region. Now let us discuss what are the functions performed by this myelin sheath. What are the functions performed by this myelin sheath? First you can write it provide nutrients. Okay, first function you can write it provide nutrients to nerve cell or axon region of nerve cell. It provide nutrients. Then you can write it provide oxygen for nerve cell. Okay, what are the functions of myelin sheath that we are discussing here? First one, it provide nutrients, it provide oxygen, then it act as an insulator. It act as an insulator. Then it protect nerve cell from external damage. It protect nerve cell from external damage. Okay, what are the functions of nerve cell that we are discussing? So first you can write here it provide nutrients, then it provide oxygen for nerve cell, then it act as an insulator, then it protect from external damage or external pressure. Then in addition to this, it accelerate the nerve impulses or messages transmitted through nerves. Okay, so what are the functions performed by myelin sheath? It provide nutrients, it provide oxygen, then it act as an insulator, then it protect nerve cell, and it accelerate the impulses or messages transmitted through nerve cell. Okay, so myelin sheath you have to study what is myelin sheath, what kind of cells are present in myelin sheath. Then we classify region of brain and spinal cord into two types, that is white matter and grey matter. How you classify? That is based on the presence or absence of myelinated nerve cells. Then we discussed about different functions performed by myelin sheath. Now let us move to our next topic, that is transmission of impulses and generation of impulses. First we have to discuss how these impulses are generated. How these impulses are generated in a nerve cell. How these impulses are generated in a nerve cell. So there is a diagram on this blackboard. Can you see this diagram? Just observe this diagram. There are some pictures drawn in this board. So you can see the region marked as positive charged, then some region are marked as negatively charged, then there is a stimulus coming, that is also mentioned here. Then there are some changes occurring after reaching the stimulus. When the stimulus reaches the surface of a nerve cell, there are some changes occurring. that we are going to discuss here. In the case of transmission of impulses, just think, usually receptors produce impulses. Receptors are nothing but specialized cells in sense organ or different parts of body. In response impulse, stimulus, what will happen? It will produce some impulses, it will produce some messages, and these messages are transmitted to nerve cell, isn't it? That you already studied, these messages are transmitted through nerve cell. Now we are discussing how these messages are generated, how they are transmitted to adjacent cell. Usually nerve cells are interconnected, then only the transmission or control and coordination of our body is possible. How these impulses are transmitted, that we are going to discuss here. So there is a line here, you can see it is nothing but it is the plasma membrane region. It is the plasma membrane region of nerve cell. It is the plasma membrane region. So outer there is a plasma membrane. Any cell, in animal cell, if you type, you can see a membrane, that is nothing but cell membrane or plasma membrane. Then outer side of this plasma membrane, it is positively charged. Just look inside, it is negatively charged inside. Outer side, both sides you check, that is outer side it is positively charged, inner side it is negatively charged. That is before the stimulus, before the formation of stimulus. When stimulus reaches the surface of this plasma membrane, just observe what are the changes occurring. What are the changes occurring here? You can see here there is a stimulus coming, it is marked as an arrow mark, then there are some changes occurring. Why this region is positively charged outside, and why this region is negatively charged inside? Why it is like that? Before the stimulus formation, just check, outer side it is positively charged, inner side it is negatively charged. Why it is like that? Because there is a distribution of ions. There is a distribution of ions that is outside the cell membrane and inside the cell membrane. There is a distribution of charged particles that we call as ions, and ions are distributed outside the cell membrane and it is also distributed inside the cell membrane. That means there is an equilibrium of positively charged ions outside the body and there is an equilibrium of negatively charged ions inside the plasma membrane. Okay, so there is a distribution of charged ions. Okay, so outer side it is positively charged because positively charged ions are present there, then negatively charged ions are present inside. Then when a stimulus reaches the surface, what will happen? There occurs a change in these charged particles. There is a change in charged particle, that is, just observe here this diagram. There is a box, you can see here. Here it is negatively charged outside and positively charged is inside, and positive charge is present inside, negative charge is present outside. Just observe before this diagram, that also see. So there are some changes, that is negative charge came outside and positive charge is present inside. So when a stimulus reaches the plasma membrane or cell membrane of a neuron, what will happen? There occurs changes and interchange of ions. So equilibrium of that ionic equilibrium of nerve cell changes. As a result, there occurs changes in electric charge. Okay, changes in electric charge or ions in, that is positive charged particles comes inside and negative charged particles are outside the nerve cell. And the same moment the adjacent region, it is not completely drawn, that you can check here, this region is drawn here. Similarly, at the same moment what will happen? The charges of the adjacent cell or part of neuron also changes. Here you can see positive charge is inside, negative charge is outside. And so this type of transmission, okay, so nerve impulses are nothing but, what are nerve impulses? Nerve impulses are nothing but, these are the electric charges or messages. These are electric charges or messages which is transmitted through nerve cell. Actually, these messages are what? These are electric charges. Okay, so these electric charges, nerve impulses are actually electric charges, and these electric charges are passing through the nerve cell. These are electric charges and it is transmitted through the nerve cell. So we call them as a nerve impulse. What is nerve impulse? It is nothing but it is messages. The messages transmitted through nerve cell is called what? Nerve impulses. Nerve impulses are nothing but the messages transmitted through nerve cell. So these are electric charges. So nerve impulses are electric charges. So there occurs a charged movement of a charged particle, that is positively charged particle or negatively charged particles. So nerve impulses are actually charged particle. So movement of electric charges occur inside the cell or nerve cell. Okay, inside the nerve cell there occurs a movement of electric charges, and these messages are transmitted as electric charges. These electric charges or messages transmitted through nerve cell are known as what? Nerve impulses. Okay, we already discussed how it is formed. There is, before the stimulus formation, there is a balanced state that is outside the body of nerve cell and inside. Then when a stimulus reaches the surface, what will happen? There occurs changes in the ionic equilibrium. After that, what will happen? There occurs changes in the electric changes occurs near the nerve cell. Neuron equilibrium or nerve cell positively charged and negatively charged particles interchange. So these nerve impulses are actually electric charges transmitted through nerve cell. Now we are going to discuss about synapse. Next we have to discuss about synapse. Before going to synapse, just imagine, suppose a receptor produces an impulse. Suppose a receptors are nothing but specialized cells which is usually present in our body part or our sense organ. So based on the stimulus it produces impulses or messages. How these impulses reach brain? These messages should reach brain or spinal cord, then only the control and coordination is possible. How it is possible? Usually a nerve has a starting point and an end point. How it is interconnected? So there must be some connection between the adjacent nerve cell or nerve cell and some other part of our body. Then only through this connection only the transmission of impulses or control and coordination of our body is possible. So nerve will transmit. Nerves are nothing but these are the group of axon. Okay, group of axon, that is many axon join together and form nerve. Many axon join together and form nerve. So nerve will transmit impulses from our body part to brain. Then so after analyzing that message, what will happen? Brain will send some messages to our body part. Then only control and coordination is possible. So there are some region which connect the adjacent nerve cell and muscle cell or nerve cell and glandular cell, that we are going to discuss here. It is nothing but it is called what? Synapse. You can see here there is a picture on this board. What is it? It is called a synapse. It is called a synapse. So there is a picture drawn in this blackboard. Just observe that picture, closely observe that picture. You can see a neat diagram here. It is nothing but it is a diagram showing synapse. It is a diagram showing synapse. So what is synapse? Synapse is nothing but it is a junction. It is a junction between two neuron. It is a junction between two neuron. It is a junction between two neuron. Neuron and nerve cell, that is two neuron. Neuron plus muscle cell. Neuron plus muscle cell or neuron plus neuron plus glandular cell, neuron plus glandular cell, neuron plus glandular cell. So what is synapse? It is a junction between two neurons, neuron plus muscle cell, or it may be the junction between neuron plus glandular cell. So just observe this picture. So there are some regions marked. First, just read this. Synaptic knob is there, then dendrite. Synaptic knob, you may be knowing, it's a region of nerve cell. Actually, this diagram is the junction between two nerve cells. Just imagine one nerve cell. So there is a cell body, then axon is there, then there is a, here you can write synaptic knob is present in this region. Then here there is a dendrite, dendron, then axon, nucleus, cell body, etc. is there, axon. Okay. This is the end point of one nerve cell. So what will happen? This will be connected to this region, synaptic knob will be connected to another dendrite region of another nerve cell. Okay, dendrite region of another nerve cell. Then only the continuity of messages is possible, or transmission of impulse is possible. That we are going to discuss it. So that junction, this junction is called what? Synapse. That is mentioned here. You can see there is a synaptic knob, then there is a dendrite, that is the starting point of another neuron. Then electric impulses are moving here also there. Then there are some region marked, so you can see some bubble like structure, that is nothing but neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are actually chemical substances that is really released into this synaptic cleft. These are chemical substances, it is released into synaptic cleft. What is synaptic cleft? So there is a gap between these two regions, that is called synaptic cleft. Here some chemical substances are secreted by whom? Synaptic knob secreted some chemical substances. It is called what? It is called a neurotransmitter. So let us discuss some examples of a neurotransmitter. For example, you can write first one acetylcholine. Then second one you can write dopamine, acetylcholine and dopamine. These are some neurotransmitters. It accelerates the movement of impulses or movement of messages between the adjacent nerve cell. Okay, it helps in the speed up, or it accelerates the movement of electric impulses between this junction inside the synapse. It helps in the movement of ions. So that is neurotransmitter. Synaptic cleft means what? It is the gap between synaptic knob and dendrite. Neurotransmitters are nothing but these are some chemical substances released into synaptic cleft. Then what is the function of this synapse? What are the functions performed by synapse? Can you write some point? What are the functions performed by synapse? Any functions performed by synapse? It speed up, or it control the speed of these impulses or electric impulses transmitted through this junction or synapse. That is, it controls speed. Then it control the direction and speed of impulses that is transmitted through the synapse. So synapse is nothing but it is a junction between two neuron plus muscle cell or neuron plus glandular cell. Have you understood what is synapse? It is a junction between two neuron plus muscle cell or neuron plus glandular cell. Next we are going to discuss about nerves. We are going to discuss about what? Nerves. Before going to nerves, let us discuss what are the different types of neurons. After this we can move to nerves. What are the different types of neuron? We can call first neuron as a sensory neuron. Sensory neuron. First neuron is called what? Sensory neuron. Then second neuron is nothing but nerve cell. Okay, we can classify nerve cell based on the functions. Okay, first one is called a sensory neuron. Second one is called what? Motor neuron. Sensory neuron. Second one is called what? Motor neuron. So what this sensory neuron will do? Sensory neuron receives impulses from different regions of our body, or the impulses secreted by, produced by these receptors are transmitted by sensory neuron. So the impulses from various body parts are transmitted, or the messages from various body parts are transmitted from body part to brain. Okay, it will transmit impulses from body part to brain. That is the function of sensory neuron. Similarly, you can write function of motor neuron. We already discussed brain control and coordinate all the functions of our body. So already one message is reached brain. Okay, one message is there in brain. Now let us discuss what are the functions of motor neuron. Motor neuron, just think motor neuron, what is the function of motor neuron? Usually motor neuron carries impulses or messages from brain to body part. Brain to body part. Here you can write messages from body part to brain, that is transmitted by whom? This is usually transmitted by sensory neuron. There is a motor neuron. Impulses or messages are transmitted from brain to body part. Then only brain can control our body functions, or it can regulate the different mechanism of different organs. Have you understood? Neurons are classified based on their function, sensory neuron and motor neuron. Now let us move to our topic, that is nerves. We discussed here neuron, we already discussed it. Now we have to discuss about nerves. So what are nerves? What are nerves? A group of axon. A group of axon. Nerves are nothing but a group of axon. Group of axons are usually called as nerves. Group of axons. We already classify nerve cell into sensory neuron and motor neuron based on the function. Here also we can classify our nerves into different types. We can classify our nerves into different types. First nerve is called, similarly we classified nerves like that, we can classify here also. First one is called sensory nerve. Sensory nerve. First nerve is called what? Sensory nerve. And second nerve is called motor nerve, and third one is called mixed nerve. So there are three types of nerves in our body: sensory nerve, motor nerve and mixed nerve. Sensory nerve is made up of sensory nerve fibers. It is made up of what? It is made up of sensory nerve fibers. Similarly, you can write here motor nerve. It is made up of motor nerve fibers. It is made up of motor nerve fibers. Motor nerve fibers. Mixed nerve. Can you say mixed nerve? It will be made up of both sensory nerve fibers and motor nerve fibers. Sensory nerve fibers and motor nerve cell. Now we have to write what is the function of sensory nerve, then function performed by motor nerve, then function performed by mixed nerve. Sensory nerve, what will be its function? It usually receives impulses from various parts of body, that is body part, to transmit impulses from body part to brain. Motor neuron, we already discussed it. Similarly, you can write motor nerve. What will be the function of motor nerve? Motor activities means what? Control and coordination of body. Okay, movement of our body. Then can you write the function of motor nerve? To carry impulses from brain to body part. Then only brain can control or coordinate our body functions or different functions performed by organs. Then there is a third one that is called a mixed nerve. That is called a mixed nerve. It is made up of sensory nerve fibers and motor nerve fibers. It is made up of sensory nerve fibers and motor nerve fibers. Then what will be the function? Because it is made up of sensory nerve fibers and motor nerve fibers, it perform both the functions of sensory nerve cells and motor nerve cell. So you can write here, it carries impulses from brain to body part, to carry impulses from brain to body part. It can also carry impulses from body part to brain. So both the functions are performed by mixed nerves. So what we discussed, what is nerve? Nerves are classified into three types: sensory nerve, and second one is called motor nerve, third one is called mixed nerve, and what are the functions performed by them. Now we have to study a flow chart, a chart showing nerve system, how nerve system is classified. That also we have to discuss here, how nerve system is classified. So first you write nerve system. You can prepare a chart. Nerve system. Nerve system is classified into two types. First one is called central nerve system. Central nerve system. Central nerve system. And second one is called peripheral nerve system. Peripheral nerve system. Okay, so there are two types of nerve system. First one is called central nerve system and second one is called peripheral nerve system. Central nerve system include brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. Central nerve system include brain and spinal cord, whereas peripheral nerve system include cranial nerves. Cranial nerves and nerves arising from our region. What is it? Central nerve system include brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nerve system include cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Spinal nerves. So it is a chart showing nerve system. So there are two types of nerve system: central nerve system and peripheral nerve system. Central nerve system include brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nerve system include cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves are nerves arising from brain. Spinal nerves are nerves arising from our spinal cord. So that is about nerve system. So what we discussed here? Today we discussed about myelin sheath, where it is formed, what are the functions performed by myelin sheath. Then we already discussed about grey matter. We discussed about how impulses are formed, transmission of impulses, and finally we discussed about synapse. Then classification of nerves already discussed. Then we discussed about nerve system, how nerve system is classified. So what you have to do is just prepare a short note about myelin sheath, from where it is formed, what are the functions performed by them. Then there is a chart in your textbook, that is transmission of impulses. You draw that picture in your notebook, biology note you have to write. Then you write a short note how these impulses are formed, how it is transmitted. Next you have to draw picture of synapse. Then prepare a short note, what is synapse, what are the functions performed by them. After that you have to prepare a table showing classification of nerves and what are the functions performed by them, and finally we draw this chart, that is classification of our nerve system. So that is about today's class. We will continue with another topic in the coming days.